This campaign has been about health and jobs and justice for the people of this state, for all the people of this state. And they will be my guiding principles as I serve this state in the U.S. Senate, ensuring that every Georgian has great health care, no matter our wealth. Ensuring that we invest in an economic recovery that includes all communities, that rebuilds our state's infrastructure, that lays the foundations for prosperity in rural Georgia, suburban communities, and urban communities alike. And securing equal justice for all, following in the footsteps of leaders who have departed us in this last year, like Congressman John Lewis and C.T. Vivian. I want to thank the people of Georgia for participating in this election. Everybody who cast your ballot, everybody who put your faith and confidence in our democracy's capacity to deliver the representation that we deserve. Whether you were for me or against me, I'll be for you in the U.S. Senate. I will serve all the people of the state. I will give everything I've got to ensuring that Georgia's interests are represented in the U.S. Senate. I want to thank all the volunteers who poured their hearts and souls into this campaign. I want to thank my family for their support and their patience. I want to thank my wonderful wife, Alicia, who, as we speak, is at the hospital, helping Georgia mothers deliver healthy babies, helping save lives. Let's emulate the spirit of courage and heroism of those who have given so much to the health response to this crisis, as we unite as a people to overcome this challenge of COVID-19 and to build a republic that lives up to our highest ideals of equality in God's eyes and equal justice under the law. Georgia, thank you so much for the confidence that you've placed in me. I am honored by your support, by your confidence, by your trust. And I will look forward to serving you in the United States Senate with integrity, with humility, with honor, and getting things done for the people of Georgia. Thank you so much.
Okay, that was Jon Ossoff's first statement since he has taken the lead in that race. He is now up something like 16,300 plus votes. Joining us now, CNN White House correspondent John Harwood, LaTosha Brown. She's the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Also with us, CNN political commentator Van Jones. So, Van, I just want to start with you. CNN has not called the race for Ossoff, but he sure sounds like he knows he's headed to Washington. He was speaking as if it was a foregone conclusion and thanking the people of Georgia. Give us your thoughts this morning.
Democracy is working. Democracy is working. This is what's supposed to happen. You had a government that had a failed response to a national catastrophe, that you have a president who has been trying to break every rule, every norm, and a bunch of laws, and the system is responding. You will have a new president, and you will have a new Congress to try to fix what's broken. But for me, as a Southerner, I grew up in Tennessee.
For a long time, this has sort of been in the playbook for fans of the sector, this idea that it could become a federal story if you remove McConnell from leadership. Is that too simple? Is that too glib?
It's a start. It certainly drives sentiment, no question. And McConnell has been the one blocking legislation in the Senate, so a change there absolutely changes things. There's a couple key things that could come, including removal of the 280E penalty that doesn't allow deductions for tax purposes. It could improve access to capital, things that are clear positives. But it could also add regulation and a transformation of the industry that nobody knows what it might look like just yet. Right now, it's a state-by-state hodgepodge of regulations, and if the federal government gets involved, it could dramatically alter it into an interstate commerce format. There's just lots of uncertainty that also comes along with it.
Is your base case that the story remains, that the bullish story remains an evolution of state policy, not necessarily what comes out of the U.S. Capitol?
I think we're watching it. I think what's important is that there's a sentiment tailwind for sure, so we want to recognize that for the stocks. From an operating standpoint, it's also critical that some of these large U.S. operators have established businesses. The brands are still a bit of a work in process. It takes time to build brand equity, and certainly we don't really see one that's national or known and with a deep affinity or pricing power. That's where all these guys want to go. There's a head start at a minimum with all of that compared to anybody who might enter after the fact. That the U.S. listed Canadian operators are an interesting wrinkle because those stocks are moving up very nicely as well on this news, but they don't have yet a presence in the U.S. In most cases would have to take the time and capital to invest here.
Okay, so Michael, let's dig into that just a little bit more then. Looking at your coverage universe, what names do you think are best positioned? What names would you be recommending to investors right now, given the fact that there are these question marks, but a lot of optimism?
So that's where we like the U.S. operators, Green Thumb and Cresco, as far as the momentum they currently have and the way they're positioned. But we also recognize that Canopy has a deal with Acreage, a little bit smaller U.S. operator relative to Cresco and Green Thumb, but would give it turnkey access to the United States. That separates it from the U.S.-listed Canadian operators.
Are we going to see more consolidation?
It's entirely possible. It's a very fragmented market, so we'll see we'll see consolidation of some kind. I don't know if it'll be necessarily the larger players joining together. It's probably more of them rolling up smaller ones, but there's all kinds of ways it could play out. It's a massively fragmented market, so over many years, absolutely more consolidation to come, no question.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.
And is Georgia now officially a red state?
I can't tell you how honored I am that the people of my home state, where I was born and raised and educated at Morehouse College, have decided to send me to the United States Senate to represent their concerns at this defining moment in American history.
CBS News projects that Reverend Raphael Warnock is the winner of his runoff race, becoming Georgia's first black United States Senator.
And every day I'm in the United States Senate, I will fight for you. I will fight for your family.
Meanwhile, his opponent, Senator Kelly Loeffler, has not conceded the race. And as last votes are counted, Jon Ossoff continues to inch ahead of incumbent Republican Senator David Perdue. Here to break it all down are CBS News political analyst and Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez and CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright. All right, so Senator-elect Warnock declared victory last night. Before our projection, I want to play a bit of his speech for our audience.
I know that we can beat this pandemic with science and good old-fashioned common sense. I know we can rebuild a fairer economy by respecting the dignity of work and the workers who do it. An economy that honors those whom we now call essential workers by paying them an essential wage.
So, Antoine, let's talk about Warnock and his team and how they were able to pull this out. But I'm more interested in the demographic shift that we are seeing in the state of Georgia. If Jon Ossoff is victorious, he will become the first Jewish senator from that state. Obviously, we just mentioned what Raphael Warnock brings to the table. And I'm just curious because clearly when Governor Kemp picked Kelly Loeffler to fill that seat, there was perhaps some thought that she might appeal to suburban women, college-educated women that the Republican Party had been losing over the last couple of years. It didn't seem to work, and now we're sort of seeing this seismic shift. The state went blue, it voted for Joe Biden, and now you have two Democrats representing the state in Georgia, one who is Jewish and one who's African-American. If Ossoff is victorious, I should point out.
Well, Vlad, I learned growing up that when people count you out, you teach them that they do not know how to count. And that's the story of Georgia in this election cycle. Look, only the American experiment can give you a Catholic president by the name of Joe Biden, a black woman presiding over the U.S. Senate named Kamala Harris, now the son of a sharecropping mother, a black man from Georgia as the first black senator from the state of Georgia, and perhaps, when it's all said and done, I have reason to believe a Jewish man will also be the first Jewish man as U.S. senator from Georgia. Look, all of that is made possible by black voters, and that is because of the work that has been done for a very long time in the state of Georgia. We learned from our mistakes that we made on November 3rd in some places where we did not come across the finish line first. And what happened in Georgia since November 3rd was an increased effort in the high touch form of campaigning. It was a lot of door-to-door in the middle of a pandemic. It was making sure that low propensity voters, as the people in Washington, D.C. would describe them, I call them uninspired voters, show up. It was voters who perhaps were registered that did not show up on November 3rd, making sure they come back out. And once again, the coalition of young people and black people saved this little idea called America, and that is the storyline from Georgia.
As we pointed out, incumbent Senator Kelly Loeffler spoke last night. She has not conceded. Here's a clip of what she had to say at her campaign event.
We got some work to do here. This is a game of inches. We're going to win this election. We're going to save this country. That's right. That's right. We're going to win Georgia and save America.
Republican Senator David Perdue also released a statement last night saying that he will, quote, exhaust every legal resource to ensure all legally cast ballots will be properly counted. So, Leslie, this is a question for you. As I understand it, the current margin when it comes to the Loeffler-Warnock case, it's not small enough to trigger an automatic recount, but it looks razor thin when it comes to the other race. Are we headed back to court? Is this not going to end for weeks?
That's hard to say, Anne Marie, but I will tell you on the Republican side, there's a lot of conversations about kind of the changes that happened in lieu of the pandemic, certainly in Georgia and other states with absentee ballots, some of the rules that caused confusion, and then to some they say they caused irregularities. That's why that common theme of ensuring that every valid, you heard it in Perdue's statement, that every legitimate vote is counted. They want to just ensure that the people that had absentee, for example, are measured against the people that actually turned in the ballots, that they're cross-examining that, ensure every valid vote is counted. You're going to hear a lot about that. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes on to recounts and certainly a legal action, but that's what's going to happen when you have a series of too close to call elections. When they're this close, it really does look like a continuation of what we saw in November, the same players, the same message, the same outcome. So that's why we can't expect much different in terms of process.
Antoine, exit polls show 92% of black voters voted for Jon Ossoff and Senator-elect Warnock in their respective races, and 3/4 of people who did not vote in November voted for Democrats. So what factors drove those voters to the polls this time around that did not motivate them a couple of months ago? It can't just be, I'm really curious to understand if it was just a vote against Donald Trump, or if they really thought that Reverend Warnock and his policy proposals were the right fit for Georgians.
I think black people in particular were just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Keep in mind, Vlad, we're in the South. where our votes as people of color, in particular black people, have been suppressed and depressed, and people have tried to always put us in a mess for a very long time. And so when you have that and you figure out that government has not worked for you and has worked for everyone else besides you, you have to start to examine to say, well, why is that not possible? And I think black people have figured out their net worth, and they've also figured out that you cannot govern if you do not win. And so showing up